When it comes to the National Hockey League, there's been legendary players who have graced the rink. We're talking about the likes of Sidney Crosby, Bobby Hull, and Guy Lafleur. We may disagree on an individual level about who counts in the list of the greatest NHL players of all time, but we can agree that Keith Yandle is definitely going to be remembered. And after 16 seasons, he's about to retire. Let's take a look. First up, Keith Yandle is retiring as NHL's all-time leader in the consecutive game streak. After 16 long seasons, the veteran defenseman is ready to say goodbye. He became the all-time Ironman with the consecutive 989 games played. That's almost 1,000 games. Speaking on the Spittin' Chicklets podcast, he said it was nerve-wracking to quit the one thing that you had known your whole life, and how worried he was about what he was going to do in the lead-up to the decision, especially at this point of the year when all the players are preparing for training camp. But then he went on to say that over the past couple of weeks, he had become more comfortable with the idea, and how he was really looking forward to spending more time with his family. No doubt, he seems to be now looking forward to the next chapter of his life after the NHL. He made the announcement last week, but not before seeking the advice of his friends and former teammates, including Rick Nash, Shane Doan, and Roberto Luongo. Yandle also said that he was lucky enough to have made enough money to not be worried about what's going to happen when he quits, but he admitted that he was unsure of how he would navigate life outside the NHL. But it seems that the general advice that he got was that his body would give him signs that it was now time to quit. He confessed that this summer he had no interest in working out, and that's when he knew it just wasn't worth it to power through another season of hockey. Let's take a closer look at this gargantuan record of his. Playing almost 1,000 games is no mean feat. The last time he missed a game was in 2009 when he was playing for the Phoenix Coyotes, and the streak ended when the Philadelphia Flyers made him a healthy scratch on the 2nd of April. They decided to throw in the younger players since they had been out of the postseason mix in the Eastern Conference. Earlier this year on January 25th, Yandle broke the record of 964 consecutive games set by Doug Jarvis. It was in a game against the New York Islanders. Mike Yeo, who was the interim coach at the time when Yandle's streak broke, did acknowledge that missing the game must have been disappointing for him. But then again, Yandle is retiring with a record that no one else has done ever before in history. Yandle being sat out of a game doesn't mean that what he has accomplished is diminished in any way. It's a remarkable feat to be very proud of indeed. The defenseman has played more than 1,100 games. He has scored 103 goals and 619 points, a good track record by any measure. The current active leader is Phil Kessel of the Vegas Golden Knights. He has played in 982 consecutive games so far. Up next is a look back at Yandle's career over the years. The now 36-year-old Boston native started his career in the NHL with the Arizona Coyotes, but before that, he wanted to play college ice hockey with his brother at the University of New Hampshire, but he struggled academically through high school and couldn't make it to the school of his choice. He then committed to attend the University of Maine instead, but as things turned out, he gave up on college hockey altogether. Instead, he opted for the Moncton Wildcats of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, believing that this was the fastest route to turning professional. Here he played alongside the likes of Brad Marchand and Jason Demers. After this first year with them, Yandle won the Emile Bouchard Trophy for Best Defenseman and the Telus Cup for the Best Defensive Player in the Junior League. The Canadian Hockey League also gave him the award for Defenseman of the Year, and he was part of that year's CHL First All-Star team. He was finally drafted by the Phoenix Coyotes in the 4th round in 2005. Yandle made his NHL debut on October 11, 2006, against the Detroit Red Wings. In his first Stanley Cup playoff game, he scored the first goal for Phoenix against Detroit. On March 1, 2015, Yandle was part of a massive trade between the Coyotes and the New York Rangers. The following year, he was traded to the Florida Panthers, where he remained until 2021 when he was traded to the Philadelphia Flyers. Interestingly, at the time that he was scratched by Coach Yeo, he was statistically speaking the worst defenseman ever in the NHL. Ouch. And finally, on September 20th, 2022, he announced his retirement from the game. Let's not forget the other retirement news that came with Yandle's announcement. Turns out Yandle isn't the only veteran player who announced his retirement this past week. 45-year-old defenseman Zdeno Chara announced that he will sign a one-day contract with the Boston Bruins and retire after a staggering 24 seasons in the game. The Slovakian has played hockey for the New York Islanders, Ottawa Senators, Boston Bruins, and Washington Capitals from 1997 to 2022. Standing at 6 feet and 9 inches, Chara is the tallest person ever to play in the NHL. No wonder they call him Big Z. Also announcing his retirement on the same day was yet another defenseman, PK Subban. The 33-year-old has played for the Montreal Canadiens, Nashville Predators, and New Jersey Devils. He is also an analyst for the NHL on ESPN. And now, let's look at more news from the NHL. First, the NHL allows fans on the field in outdoor games for the first time in its history. For the first time ever, fans will be able to stand on the field while watching an outdoor hockey game. And the game in question is the Carolina Hurricanes hosting the Washington Capitals at the Carter Finley Stadium in February 2023. The idea is to have overflow general admission seating at one of the stadium's end zones. Fans will be able to view the game while standing on the field. We figure the NHL is trying to recreate the kind of atmosphere found in infield auto races. It seems that the fans will be standing slightly off the ground, like a few feet above the ground, which will allow them to have a clearer view of the ice. Luckily, the fans will be shielded from the flying pucks by protective netting. They'll be standing around the stage, where there will be music artists performing before the game, and even during the intermission, proper Super Bowl style. The game will take place on the 18th of February. The Hurricanes were initially scheduled to host the NHL Stadium Series on the 20th of February. Back in 2021, the event was postponed due to health and safety concerns related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Up next, the Bruins have signed Anton Strawman to their PTO. The Boston team figured it could do with some depth to its training camp roster. They have signed veteran player Strawman to a professional tryout offer. Yes, we know that training camps have already started, but invites are still being handed out, and the Bruins have extended an invitation to their training camp to him. With the preseason now well underway, Strawman will likely end up playing a few games for the team before the club decided on his future with them. Strawman can definitely bring some needed depth and experience to a blue line that will be without a number of important pieces for the first few months of the season. The 36-year-old has logged more than 21 minutes in nightly ice time for the Coyotes last season. He began nearly 70% of his shifts in the defensive zone. This is definitely a difficult job given the quality of the team around him. And lastly, the Edmonton Oilers have signed forward Ryan McLeod once more. This time, it's a one-year contract worth almost $800,000. The player scored 9 goals and 21 points in 71 games during his rookie season. He added 3 goals and 4 points in the postseason. McLeod's average ice time increased from less than 13 minutes in the regular season to more than 14 in the playoffs. The 23-year-old was a restricted free agent just coming off his entry-level contract. It's important to note that his deal is worth just a little bit less than the $813,000 qualifying offer he received. The move will help the Edmonton team with its long-term injured reserve enter the season. The Oiler will now be able to stay within the $165,000 salary cap ceiling before placing Oscar Klefbom and Mike Smith on the LTIR to maximize their relief pool. Edmonton began its preseason against the Winnipeg Jets this past weekend. That's a wrap for this video. Which NHL player do you think will break Yandle's streak? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.